Okay, let's go on. We're going on to part 2. So let's have a summary of what we have done so far, because we have done so many things with so many sidetracks, then people tend to be very dispersed. So now we are coming back to tell you what we have done so far. All right? So to give you to repeat the overview of the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, it starts off with the proclamation. Monks, this is the one-way path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and dejection, for the acquiring of the true method, for the realization of Nibbana, namely the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas. And then the Buddha went on to define what are the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas. They are repeated contemplation of body as body, feelings as feelings, mind as mind, dhammas as dhammas. In the sense that the body is the body and it's not feelings, not the mind, but it's Dhamma. Right? Dhamma here will be explained later. It's Dhamma in the sense that it's phenomena and it's part of the Buddha's teachings. It's phenomena classified according to the Buddha's teachings. So it means that when you contemplate on feelings or mind, you know that feelings are feelings. They are not mixed with body. Mind is mind, it's not feeling. All this can only be done while one is being ardent, clearly knowing, being mindful, having subdued longing and dejection in regard to the world. Which means that you need to have a certain degree of control over your worldly longings and dejections, or else it will be difficult for you to just step back to look at things impersonally or objectively. Looking at the structure of the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, it starts off with the proclamation and goes on to the definition, and these two are classified as abstract in your booklet, in your course book. From after this, then it goes on to Kayanupassana, contemplation of the body, starting with one of the 14 exercises, which is breathing, Anapana, and then it goes to a refrain after that. And this refrain is a so-called Vipassana refrain, because it encourages the yogi to contemplate internally, externally, both internally and externally, and especially to contemplate the nature of arising, the nature of vanishing, and the nature of both arising and vanishing. Or he is mindful that there is or are a body, feelings, mind, dhammas, just for knowledge and repeated sati. And eventually, or ultimately, he dwells independent and does not cling to anything in the world. We also pointed out that this last phrase, is independent and does not cling to anything in the world, is found in other places in the Nikayas, and this phrase normally means that a person has attained arahantship. So by this refrain, there is an implication that after each exercise, you can actually become an arahant. So this goes on to the next exercise, which is on the postures, followed again by refrain, clear knowing, refrain, 31 parts of the body, refrain, 4 elements, refrain, 9 corpses, and a refrain after each corpse. Then it goes on to feelings, then back to refrain again, to the mind, back to refrain again, and then to the dhammas, which we are going to talk about today and tomorrow. In our guided meditation on feelings and mind, I was just guiding you to identify feelings and mental states. But if you were to go further, you have to follow the refrain and to look at the nature of rising and passing away. Okay? Again, under Dhammanupassana, there are 5 exercises. The first set of exercises is concerned with the 5 hindrances. The second, the 5 aggregates. The third, the 6 internal and external sense bases. The fourth, with the awakening factors. And the last one with the 4 noble truths. After which it goes back to a refrain, and then it goes to a prediction, and finally back to a proclamation. And these two is classified or is put under a section called conclusion in your workbook. What does the prediction say? The prediction says that if anyone should develop these 4 Satipaṭṭhānas in such a way for 7 years and then counting down to 7 days, one of 2 fruits could be expected of him, either final knowledge in this very life, or if there is a trace of clinging left, non-returning. Which means that if you develop these 4 Satipaṭṭhānas as outlined and described from the beginning, then you could either become an arahant or at least an anagami within 7 years, or 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 years, or 7 months and so forth, counting down to as quickly as 7 days. And then after that the Buddha says, this is what is meant when I said, monks, this is the one-way path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and dejection, for the acquiring of the true method, for the realization of Nibbana, namely the 4 Satipaṭṭhānas. But then there is also the Satipaṭṭhāna Mula, which is Ajahn Sujato's hypothesis of how the Satipaṭṭhāna could have been originally shorter than what we have now, because in his scrutiny of Satipaṭṭhāna materials in various sources, he found out that there were a lot of variations. Not all the Satipaṭṭhāna materials are the same, particularly those that were about Satipaṭṭhāna in detail. There were some elements that were missing, or some elements that were added in other scriptures when we compare to what is available in our Pali canon right now. So after doing his research, he has come to this hypothesis that this could have been what the original Satipaṭṭhāna would have looked like. So it is based on his book, A History of Mindfulness, which can also be downloaded for free from the internet. It starts off with a proclamation, and then it goes on to a definition which is a bit different from ours. The definition in his Mula, or original Satipaṭṭhāna, so-called original Satipaṭṭhāna, is like that. Repeated contemplation of body as body, feelings as feelings, mind as mind, dhammas as dhammas, internally, externally, both internally and externally, while being ardent, clearly knowing, being mindful, having subdued longing and dejection in regard to the world. What is different when compared to our Satipaṭṭhāna in the Pali Canon is this phrase, internally, externally, both internally and externally, which has been imported from the refrain. So for him, there's only one exercise in Kayanupassana, and that is the 31 parts of the body. And then he goes to the refrain, and the refrain in the Mula is also different. It's mindful for the sake of knowledge and vision that there is or are a body, feelings, mind, dhammas, is independent and does not cling to anything in the world. So what is conspicuously missing from his refrain is the vipassana part. There's no instruction to observe the nature of arising and vanishing. But yet, he has this phrase, dwelling independently and not clinging to anything in the world, which also implies that that particular exercise can lead to arahantship. Another interesting variation is that instead of repeated sati, he has vision, in his refrain. So after refrain, you go back to feelings, and then refrain again, back to the mind, refrain, and to Dhammanupassana, which according to him has only 2 exercises. The 5 hindrances, the 7 awakening factors, and then back to refrain, prediction, and proclamation.